Welcome back to the channel, welcome back explorers. My name is Jack and today we are carrying on with some more rally. I'm really enjoying getting to relearn and re-educate myself about the sport itself. A few of you have come from rally, so welcome back. A few of you are new. Hello, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at Group B, when rallying got too fast. I was born in 1991. I was just a little bit too late for the Group B rally years of the 80s. I do know of it. I'm not going to act like I'm completely obnoxious and don't know what it is. But I don't know the specifics behind it. I don't know what brought it around. I don't know the in-depth of it. So today we're going to learn together. If you are new around here and you enjoy what you see, hit the like button, leave a comment, let me know. Subscribe. It lets YouTube know also that I'm doing stuff that you like. If you're old around here, welcome back explorers. We're doing some more rally. And without further ado, let me know who your favourite rally driver is. Let me know if you've never seen rally, if you're now into it. Let's go, shall we?
The Audi Quattro, Lancia 037 and the Peugeot 205 T16, some of the most iconic names in rallying. Cars that pushed the limits of what was possible in a way that we haven't seen since. It was called Group B and is still held as the golden era of rallying. Group B was a class where manufacturers were allowed to go all out with almost unlimited power, crazy aerodynamics and new exotic materials. It brought about...
See, I knew that. If I remember correctly, it was like in the rally days of old, maybe even still to this day, a car manufacturer had to sell like 50,000 units or whatever it was for a car to be eligible to be used as a rally vehicle. And then in Group B, I believe it was like 500. So if you've done 500 cars sales, you could enter it as a rally vehicle. And obviously then they just started going absolute batshit crazy with power and let's keep going. Sorry.
About new technologies like four-wheel drive, semi-automatic gearboxes and clever turbocharging systems. However,
crazy,
it was only
tech.
for the bravest of drivers. The hugely powerful cars needed a lot of manhandling to thread them through the tight, twisty stages, away from huge drops and dodging a sea of spectators. But how did this come about, and what can we learn from the crazy cars that won in the Group B era? Rallying went wild in the 80s. The FIA wanted to attract more manufacturers and so created a class that would give the designers pretty much free rein. No power limits, no regulations on boost and whatever exotic materials you liked. Rally cars over the years have been largely based on road cars, with rules tightening and loosening on how close the relationship has to be between the stock car and the ones that actually race the stage. For example, in the Group A class, the manufacturers have to produce 5,000 road-going versions of the car before it is allowed to compete. In Group B, to lower the costs and interest manufacturers, they ruled that only 200 cars needed to be produced.
There you go, that's my only little tidbit that I actually know. I was wrong. 200 cars. So if you had a small firm... Oh, that's crazy. Okay, let's keep going. It's a 10-minute video.
Also allowed almost endless modifications to be made, meaning the rally cars were nothing like the road cars at all. This approach really worked, attracting many manufacturers to Group B, names like Lancia, Porsche, Peugeot, Audi, Toyota, Ford, as well as so many more. Lancia took the Drivers' Championship in the first year of Group
were
B
amazing.
with the
Lancia
037.
Delta.
It was the last rear-wheel drive car to win in the WRC. It was incredibly light, using fiberglass and Kevlar for the body, and was powered by a mid-mounted 250 horsepower engine. It has much larger wings than many cars of the time, with a huge rear spoiler to stabilise the car at high speeds. It was supercharged to avoid turbo lag, and it was incredibly quick on the tarmac stages. However, it wasn't quite as quick on loose surfaces. So in stepped Audi with the Quattro, one of the most innovative rally cars of all time, a true game changer. It had an inline 5 engine with a very clever turbocharging system that produced...
Also, I'm going to make comments because some people will say, why didn't you say anything about the crowds? Yes, rally crowds stand obnoxiously close to the road. And back in the 80s and 90s, they were a lot worse and a lot less caring for their own well-being, it would seem. So, trust me, I see all the crazy people on the roads. I'm not ignoring it.
Produced over 450 brake horsepower. It had a small valve that kept the turbo spooled even when off throttle, meaning there was very little turbo lag, making the car quick out of the tight turns. The Audi also had a very aggressive aero kit with a huge spoiler at the front of the car and an even bigger wing on the back. This was one of the first sophisticated uses of aerodynamics.
But how many championships did it win?
Drivers said it made the car extremely stable at high speed.
How many?
The insane power was put through a clever semi-automatic gearbox and drove all four wheels. It was the first car to use a four-wheel drive system effectively.
Incredible.
Before this, many manufacturers stuck to rear-wheel drive as they thought the additional weight would outweigh any time gains from the extra traction. And yes, the Audi was very heavy, and the four-wheel drive system meant the weight was higher up than you would like in a rally car normally.
That just meant that to put the foot down harder.
Despite the compromised dynamics, it worked. The Audi had more power than the rest of the field, but could also use it more effectively, deploying more power even on surfaces like gravel, dirt and ice.
These people...
Audi won its first race with the car and didn't really stop after that. They shaved seconds, if not minutes, off stage times. The Audi four-wheel drive system really changed the game in rallying. But the Audi dominance didn't last long. Peugeot came out with a car that would expose the weaknesses of the Quattro.
Is it the 206?
They used a similar four-wheel drive system but packaged it very differently.
Or a 106?
Their secret was that they really nailed the car's dynamics. They built the car to look like the road-going 205, a small hatchback. It had a very short wheelbase, which generally makes cars more nimble at low speeds with the trade-off of less stability at high speeds. However, rally stages are often so tight and twisty that this strategy paid off.
Sorry. I just got to pause quickly. What do you do at that point? I am not skilled enough, I don't think, to have swerved around cows like he did. At that, people like, ah! especially if you're the co-pilot.
They also did everything they could to keep the weight central. They fitted a 1.8 litre engine in the middle of the car, although it didn't have the clever anti-lag system that the Audi did. So the drivers used an old trick to keep the turbo spooled up. They left foot braked for the corners while staying on the throttle.
Incredible.
This kept the turbo spooled up and gave them immediate power on the exit. But what was really unusual about the 205 was the orientation they mounted the engine in. Normally, race cars have longitudinal mounted engines with the crank parallel with the direction of the car. However, Peugeot fitted it in a transverse orientation, and instead of mounting the gearbox below the engine like in the Audi, Peugeot mounted it to the side. This meant that the majority of the weight in the car was between the two axles and could be mounted lower, making the car much more nimble and responsive.
Like a little go-kart.
Low centre of gravity means the car doesn't roll too much, and if it's in the centre of the chassis, the car is easier to rotate in the corners. The 205's weight distribution wasn't 50-50 though, it placed around 60% of the weight on the rear wheels. In simple terms, rearward weight distribution promotes oversteer and frontward weight distribution creates more understeer. This rearward bias meant the car was easier to turn in and control through the turns. You can really see this if you watch the Audi through the corners. The Audi was very front heavy and produced a lot of understeer. The drivers are trying to neutralise this with the throttle, but they have to correct the car several times through the corner. The Quattro understeers, then oversteers, then understeers again through a turn. The drivers really had to wrestle it through the corner. The Quattro was by no means an easy car to drive. Now look at the Peugeot. There is one smooth input on the steering and the car looks much more balanced and easy to drive. There is no wonder it was quicker. It's incredible to watch as these drivers control the car when at crazy speeds on tight and twisty rally stages. Also not forgetting they are threading the car through a sea of spectators on the stage. But why are the fans allowed to be so close to the cars?
Tell me.
The stages are public roads, meaning anyone could go and spectate. However, it meant that many got extremely close to the cars.
I didn't know that just because it's a public road that it was...
But it was considered to be part of the challenge for the drivers. They often kept it pinned and had to hope that...
Sorry lads, going 155 miles an hour on gravel in the rain on hairpin bends isn't hard enough. The real challenge is avoiding the people. What?
The fans would get out the way in time. This guy even had to jump over a passing car.
What?
Many manufacturers understood that Peugeot's approach was the way to go, all producing smaller, short wheelbase cars with all the weight in the middle. MG created
I know you're
the
going to be close to the action, lads, but
distinctive
that's...
boxy shape and a huge front wing, and the Renault 5 took a similar approach too. However, it was Lancia that did it the best. They finally scrapped rear-wheel drive after being uncompetitive all year, so they created the Lancia Delta S4, a short wheelbase four-wheel drive monster. Firstly, they developed an engine with a genius twin charging system. They fitted a supercharger to avoid the lack of a turbo, a bit like the Lancia 037. However, this created less power at high revs. As a supercharger is directly driven by the engine, it can provide boost at low revs, but saps more and more power as the revs climb. So what Lancia did was fit an additional turbocharger that would
so when that one drops, it charges.
So low-end boost was provided by the supercharger before cutting out and letting the turbo take over at higher revs.
That is so smart.
This meant the Delta S4 was amazingly powerful and had the grip to put it down onto the stage. It took many wins before eventually bringing the Group B era to a close. This era of rallying was amazing to watch. Incredibly fast cars and amazing drivers all pushing to the limits of what's possible. There were different winners every year and cars that looked remarkably different with incredible engineering. However, you can't ignore the fact that it was extremely dangerous. The cars were too powerful, difficult to drive, and not enough emphasis was put on the safety of drivers and spectators. The biggest issue was the minimum weight rule. Cars could weigh as little as 890 kilograms. So to be competitive, manufacturers would do anything they could to get this limit down. This created a breed of cars that were very fragile and not up to the job of protecting drivers in a crash. Many of the drivers explained that
I was going to say the dangerous side of it is, like, I know that we've been seeing clips of like all these guys cutting through turns and being phenomenal, but crashes do happen. And when they were making cars that light and that powerful, it wasn't just a little bump in the road. You got fucking hurt, killed. I'm glad that they decided to like start using their heads a little bit.
That if this weight limit was higher, more strengthening could have been added to better protect the drivers in a crash.
Roll cages.
Several huge crashes happened. In Portugal, Santos crested a rise in his Ford RS200. He lost control and went off the course, horrifically injuring 31 spectators and killing 3. All the teams immediately pulled out of the rally and it left Group B hanging on by a thread. A few months later, the final blow came. Lancia's Henry Toivonen was the championship favourite when he lost control late in a fast turn. He was winning by a huge margin when he and his co-driver Sergio Cresto came flying off the road, heading down a steep hill.
Oh wow.
The impact ruptured the fuel tank, spilling fuel over the red-hot turbocharger, sending the car up in flames. After the incident, it was barely
I'm glad they got out. My lord.
Both Henry and Sergio were killed in the crash.
What? It looked like
this
they got
led
out.
to many manufacturers pulling out, and the FIA ended the Group B class the following year. You should watch this video where I explain what it takes to modify.
Okay, thank you, my friend. Wow. Hold on. That threw me off there because it looked like at the end they got out, and it looked like on the subtitles it said that they were on the road. Wow. Damn. Okay. Well, I hope you learned something. It goes, listen, I'm all for innovation and I'm all for having creativity and being idealistic, I suppose, with what you want to do in the sport, but I'm glad that safety measures were put in place and it was more, and humans were put before the power and the look how fast we can go, which is nice. I really enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment. If you haven't subscribed, do so now. Go check some other videos on the channel. You might find something else you like. Other than that, have a great day. Be well and bye bye.